Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
This is the part of the day where the kids at home get really excited, Doc.
Yes, because they probably get some crunchy Cheerios or something of that sort, right?
No, because they were looking forward to hearing about all the analysis on current events from Dr. Bob.
Oh, the Canasteel Valley is full of a bunch of policy wonks. Well, that's wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, let's start out. We do want to get to the thing everybody's been talking about with the executive order to stop children from being separated from their parents and Governor Cuomo's reaction to that. But let's start out with the upcoming primary. Tuesday, what is it, 5 Democrats in the congressional primary here in New York State?
In this district, I think.
In this part of the state.
There are 5, yeah. I think 2 women and 3 guys. I think I got that right. It's going to be fascinating to see how this is going to turn out. I've heard some of the Democrats say that, in fact, they are prepared to sequester the ballot boxes because they think that it's going to be that close. And it could be. I mean, you could have, with 5 people running and low turnout, I mean, most people don't even know there's an election Tuesday. So the combination could lead to some very tight races there, and obviously absentee ballots and things of that sort begin to play a pretty big role in that situation. Now, I don't know how many of these candidates are also on third-party lines, so even if they lose, they will still have a chance. I think Matrano is also on the working families line. So,
okay, Tracy Matrano.
Yeah, so even if she loses in the Democrat primary, she would still be on the ticket, which, again, my understanding is that Reed's people are trying to undertake an opportunity to ballot approach to be able to try to kick Matrano off the working families line. I don't know why they're doing that. I think I'd want her on there. Especially if she loses the Democrat primary. Now, they may be thinking she'll win it and thus have 2 or 3 lines to run on. I don't know. But at any rate, it's possible that more of these candidates are on third-party lines, so their names may be popping up again, whatever happens Tuesday. Now, there are some other Democrat primaries that are interesting. The one in Monroe County.
Can we get to those in 1 sec? I did have a poli-sci type of question for you.
Poli-sci, that's what I am, a political scientist. So.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, you got Eddie Sundquist from Jamestown.
Right.
Ian Golden from Ithaca. You've got Dr. Linda Andrei of Ithaca, Max Della Pia of Pia of Owego, and
I think Mayor
Tracy Matrano of Penn Yan.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Which is the most significant town in the 23rd Congressional District? That's my question.
Well,
which is the most important town? Out of all those towns mentioned, and we're talking Penn Yan, Ithaca, Jamestown. He was from Della Pia is from Owego.
That's former Mayor Hogan's candidate, I believe. Della
yes.
Pia. Yeah. Well, I think for the Democrats, clearly the most votes are in the Tompkins County, Ithaca area, but Chautauqua County has traditionally, and I'm sure still does, have a big chunk of the population in the district. And I don't know what that would be right now because the district has obviously expanded over the years.
Okay.
And there are a lot of Democrats over there, too.
So it's a tie between maybe Ithaca and Jamestown.
No,
Ithaca
I wouldn't
because
say
there's
that.
a big number of liberals. Jamestown because there's more people.
I don't think, well, I think the margin that you're going to pull as a Democrat in Ithaca is the advantage for the Democrats. So, yes, that's my answer.
Okay, you had something you wanted to talk about.
Well, I think Monroe County deserves Louise Slaughter's district there.
Tell us about that.
We have 4 candidates running for the Democrat primary there. 2 men, 2 women, 2 African Americans, 2 whites. So we've got diversity pretty much covered there in that Democrat primary up there in Monroe County. And I'd have to say Joe Morelli, who has been the majority, I think he's been the majority leader in the New York State Assembly for some time. I think he'd have the inside track. But you know, the one of you have a black a lady there running who I think has a doctorate and is pretty capable. I think maybe she's run again. So it's not that he's without competition. And of course, when you divide the primary up 4 different ways, it's again a little hard to predict how all this is going to come out. And the one thing that really goes by the boards are the polls, because it's pretty tough to come up with accurate polling when you've got to have that many candidates. 2 candidates, obviously, you can come pretty close. 3 already begins to throw things into a killer. So there's the Monroe County area, and then there are 2 districts, I think the 21st and the 19th down toward Albany and such, that also have a number of Democrats running in the primary. So there's, it'll be an interesting night, and I think we Republicans can sit back and kind of watch the fireworks.
Now, Republican candidate for governor, Mark Molinaro, the Dutchess County executive, was on this show.
Was he?
Thursday morning in segment 1. Thanks for listening.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's now up on WLEA.net. But anyways, we talked a lot about the Buffalo Billion.
Yeah.
And between that and all the candidates in the race, Molinaro seems to think that those 2 factors could make a difference. Buffalo Billion and a lot of candidates running, including Syracuse Mayor Democrat Stephanie Miner as an independent.
Right. No, I think he's right. He's absolutely right. And Miner, who has just come into the race and is running on, what is that line? Save America or something of that sort?
I saw independent on a couple of websites.
No, it's a line.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then
she's independent of the Democrat Republican. I see what you're saying. A third party, but not in the Independence Party.
Cynthia, right. And Cynthia Nixon is on the Working Families line, plus she's also in the Democrat primary, I guess, as far as I can tell. We'll see if she gets enough signatures and whether Cuomo tries to toss her off the ballot on the Democrat side. But with those 2 running, Cuomo is going to get hit very hard in the New York City area with Cynthia Nixon, and he's going to get hit very hard upstate because Miner is going to focus, I think, very heavily on the upstate turnout. And she's also focusing very heavily on corruption and the problems with things like the Buffalo Billion. So I think those are things that have to be really worrisome to Governor Cuomo. And in the past, what Governor Rockefeller would do was simply indict the opponents that were taking him on in the Republican primary. But it's getting a little harder to do that these days, and especially with 2 women. So I think the man has, there's some difficulties there, and if Molinaro plays it right, and I think he's a pretty capable politician, I think his chances are going to go up considerably.
Okay, there's so many things to talk about this week with Dr. Robert Heineman, Alfred University political science professor emeritus.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, on the polls have Cuomo way ahead, considering how off the polls were on President Donald Trump in November 2016. Should we believe the polls about Cuomo and Cynthia Nixon?
Those polls aren't terribly worthwhile right now, primarily because the ones I've seen have been 2-person polls. Cuomo against Molinaro, Cuomo against Cynthia Nixon. And so, again, you don't have polls dealing with 3 or 4 candidates. So that in itself, I think, makes him a little suspect. It is interesting to look down into the polls, though, to see, what the black vote is doing, what the upstate rural vote is doing, and things of that sort. They can tell you a little something there, maybe. But other than that,
I don't know. I'm a
way
little
too
wary of the
early.
polls since the last presidential race there.
well, nobody pays much attention to these elections, frankly, till after Labor Day. It's kind of a axiom of
Okay,
politics.
we've talked about what's going to happen in the future. Let's talk about the past week a little bit. Starting out with the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Let's start with the ruling from Thursday that there can be an internet sales tax. Where it is that Amazon's Amazon on the stock market went way down. But besides Amazon, your thoughts on this ruling from the court?
Well, I think it's an attempt by the court to move into the modern era. In the past, this interstate taxing issue, in terms of the ability of states to levy sales tax on businesses doing business in the state, required some sort of tangible activity in the state, salespeople, some sort of use of state facilities, roads, police protection, so that the taxes were what they would call use taxes. You're using state facilities. And there's a famous case way back, I think, in the 80s or maybe I think the 80s, where the mail order catalog, in fact, I used to order my shirts from them, and I can't remember what it is now. Illinois tried to tax them. They were located in, I think, Missouri. And the Supreme Court said, no, just using the mails in Illinois doesn't give Illinois the right to levy a use tax. So that's been kind of the principle all along. But obviously this whole Internet thing has changed the market tremendously, and the court, to its credit, says, look, we've got to update this. Clearly, there's a tremendous amount of commerce crossing state lines through the Internet, and the fact that businesses within a state have to pay collect a sales tax, and these others don't, is really disadvantaging businesses in states. And so let's bring this up to speed here. And basically, the court, and I'm not certain how the court divided, but I would guess it was pretty heavy in favor of this decision. And again, I'm not sure. But basically, the court's saying the states are free, if they want to levy sales tax on Amazon and any of these other. Now, Amazon, I think, has been paying sales tax anyway, because most of the states, they have facilities of one sort or another that they use, so they're getting hit with use. But plenty of these others do not. Now, in New York State, as you know, when you file your income tax, I think it's line 54 that says you have to estimate what sales tax you would have paid on items ordered over the Internet. And so they give you a range. If your income is within this range, then you have to put down, I don't know, $50 or $45 or whatever, which is the state's estimate of what you might have had to pay in sales tax on what you might have ordered on the Internet. Now, if New York State decides to go ahead and tax these Internet sales directly, then I think line 54 should probably go by the boards. But there is a heck of a lot of money there that the states are being denied, and I don't blame the Supreme Court at all from saying, look, it's time to bring this up to date. So that's a pretty important decision, and may slow down attempts to legalize marijuana in order to get more income. But also, Brian, I think we should look at.
Were there any other cases you want to talk about?
There are
Because
some
there was
other
a few
cases
things this week, I guess.
that are especially important.
Okay.
And the two cases involving gerrymandering, the one involving Wisconsin and the other one involving Maryland. And the one in Wisconsin, the Democrats were claiming that the Republican legislature had gerrymandered the congressional districts to favor the Republicans, which I'm sure they did. And the one in Maryland, the Republicans were claiming the Democrats had gerrymandered the districts in favor of the Democrats, which I expect they did. And so the Supreme Court heard both those cases, and in both cases, the Supreme Court said we're not going to decide these cases. We're not going to make a decision here, and basically stepped out of the area. Now, in the Wisconsin case, the Supreme Court went further to make it considerably more difficult if you're going to claim that somehow it's a partisan gerrymander. You've got to show a specific individual harm to individuals, and that's going to be very hard to do. In the cases involving discrimination against blacks or, say, Hispanics, it was possible to show that black voters were, in fact, being disadvantaged. But when you're talking about Democrats and Republicans, I mean, they're across the range there. And so it's going to be very difficult for the courts to step in there. Now, in Pennsylvania, the state court stepped in and insisted on the redrawing of congressional districts. So that may happen here and there in some of the states. But I think the bottom line here, Brian, is that by stepping back, the court has left these congressional districts pretty much in place, and that means the Republicans are in pretty good shape going into November because most of the state legislatures in the country are controlled by Republicans, and they're the ones that draw those boundaries. And those boundaries have already been drawn, and I don't think they're going to rush out and redraw them. So at this point, the attempts to use the courts, the Democrats, I think, have hit a brick wall here at the national level. Now, they may get some state courts to step in, I don't know, but...
Doc, we're late on a break. We will be right back.
Our summer sizzler is here. Every week, we will be picking one winner from our 10 local sponsors to win a family 4-pack of theme park tickets. 4 tickets to Waltermere Water Park, Darien Lake Theme Park, Roseland Water Park, Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame, or Martin's Fantasy Island. Register at any of these great local businesses. In Canastillo, register at J&J Barbecue and Sausage Company, the Hartman Agency, Annie's Restaurant, or BK's Boutique Florist. In Hornell, register at K&K Auto. Also, Studio 12 in Arkport, Perks Auto in Almond, Duke's Pizza in Alfred, and Way to Grow and Canagadia Country Store, both in Alfred Station. Good luck from AM 1480 WLEA and Fun 92.1.
Good morning, Americans. It's Friday. We got meteorologist Rob Carolyn on the line. Rob, how's it going to be for graduation weekend?
Soggy for graduation. Not good, Brian. We've got a frontal system that's going to try to push through western and central New York this week. It's going to have very limited success. Cool, dry air up in Canada is going to try to hold it back. How cool, you say? 33 degrees this morning in Saranac Lake. We actually had some spots in Quebec down into the 20s this morning. Yes, the shortest night of the year, and they got into the 20s in Quebec. So that air is going to try to hold the warm, moist air back, and it's going to have some success. We're going to be stuck right in the battleground in between. If you're headed to a graduation ceremony,